So I just sketched this out with watercolor, and I got my nice little brush here. And I have a picture reference of my still life that was in front of me the other day. 'Tis not anymore. Got a cup of water. It's probably too full. I guarantee you I'm going to spill today. I know I'm going to. So let me move my phone out of the way. All right, so I like to start off with my dark layers. So this is the nice thing about watercolor is this is from last class that I saw you guys a week ago. So I can just get my palette wet again. I just dipped it in with my paintbrush. Now it's the same exact color and tone that I had last time. So if you have color mixing, like a special color that you started with, then you can save it. So I'm probably going to make things darker later, but I like to start in my shadow areas because it's solid, it's easy. And once I have my shadows blocked out, it helps the things that I want to stay white stand out better. And I might change my mind next class, Next class I might want to start with my gray areas. That's what a lot of people do. I guess this is it's a medium gray. And you can see that the lines underneath it that I'm drawing, that I drew to mark out that was a dark area, they're disappearing because the watercolor pencil is magic. So it gets a little bit lighter on this side where I'm looking at with my phone, but I'm going to make some things look darker later by adding a dark layer. And you can see that the cup is popping out and like my little hand sanitizer thing is popping out nicely. And before all that stuff dries, I want to smooth that out because it gets lighter up towards the top. I don't want to have a hard edge, so I work quickly with watercolor, but so that it fades out nicely. I'm going to go really slow around the rim of my cup. This part's going to be darker according to my image that I'm looking at. So later I'll put down another layer of paint on that. I'm going to fade it up because it is lighter on this side. And if you notice that you have too much water pooling up, then you probably do. If you notice that it's making a puddle, it'll take longer to dry and it will make your paper warp. So I just absorb it with a paper towel as I go. And then I can still use the paint and the water that's on there and pull it upwards so that it's good to go. And it's lighter here, so I'm just going to fix that little area. Make this big. And I'm going to go around this. So right now I'm just focusing on the flower pot that my cactus is in. Just getting started. Oh my gosh, I just flicked a bunch of water on my background. You know what? That's going to be fun. I'm going to include that later. I like the aesthetic that watercolor gives me. It's kind of fun and fluid and all over the place. That's what made me fall in love with it in the first place. It's exciting and stressful. So I just took the water off. I'm going to go around this area because it's really light here, the rim of my cactus. So the cool thing that I like about it is how you can see the watery marks on it. It's not smooth. It's not like oil paint. I like seeing those little fractals that it makes. So I'm going to let that part sit for now. I'm going to mess around with some of my other dark parts because I don't like to overwork just one place. I like to do a little bit here and a little bit there so that it doesn't overwhelm me. So I'm going to work in my dark area. I'm just getting my paintbrush wet and I'm going to go back into the pan. And I'm looking at my picture. It's not completely black everywhere. Okay. But this part is darker than the rest of it. So I'm leaving a little rim around where the edge of my cactus is because it has a little bit of a highlight there. So I'm going to leave that part blank. And I haven't gone back to get any paint or any water. It's not oversaturated. That means heavy with water. I'm cleaning out my brush right now because I'm looking at my picture and it's a little bit lighter up here at the top. I didn't put any more paint on it. I'm just using the water and it's pushing the paint around. And I just dried off my brush on this side. Oh, you can't see what I'm doing. There we go. Now you can see this happy little fade out that I got going on. And remember, we can use our brush as a sponge. It can absorb some areas to add texture. So I'm zooming in on my picture. I don't want to order a print. There we go. And I see that there's little tiny highlight textures. So I'm just going to use my brush. I'm going to add those in there. So it's just absorbing my paint. Let me show you what I'm doing. There's little tiny, you can't see them in the film. The little areas of highlight in there that I was going for. All right, I don't want that part to bleed. So I'm going to let that dry because remember, watercolor creates a path and I'm in charge, not the paint. I'm in charge. So I'm going to work on this side. It's a lighter gray. So I'm going to hydrate my light gray that I did the other day just by adding some water to it. And I should really test out my value before I paint. Say, oh, that looks okay. That's light enough. Okay, here we go. This in here, and I'm going to use that same little paint sponge technique to get some highlighted textures in there. But if there is a light area like I see here, I'm going to leave that area light. I wiped off my brush and I'm going to pull that color out and down below, leaving that area completely blank. I'm going to do a little bit of that here and there because I want that part to stay light because it's light in the photo that I'm looking at. It's hard to have super good control over those lines and leaving those areas white. But as you can see, it's already starting to bring up a somewhat three-dimensional effect. So the nice thing about this watercolor pencil is it's dissolving and going away. And so I had some lines there where I was practicing my ellipse for the flower pot, and now that's gone. And now I'm going to pull up that paint color again. And I'm just trying to make it look as similar to my original that I have here. It's lighter up there. Again, I'm going to let this part stay blank for now because it's got to dry. Okay, I've only been doing this for a few minutes. I'm going to move on to a different object because, again, it's got to dry. I'm going to make this a really light gray wash, this bottle here. So the background is super light because it's a table. So I'm going to leave the background white and then I'm going to start focusing on the edge and make it gray in there. And I'm going to mark out the areas on my bottle here that I want to stay white. So I don't mess that up. This will make it look more realistic because I will have some reflections up in there. So I can have it looking good. I like to draw a little bit as I paint and make my details pop. It's thicker up here. I'm drawing little circles to represent like the little dots of humidity that I see in there. Some more highlights. That's my label. Okay. So before I add any paint on this, since this is super light, I'm just going to take the watercolor pencil that I had on there to use it to spread around my value. So then my edge is going to be dark, but the inside's still going to be rather light. So, oh, let me zoom in so you can see that cool magic trick I'm doing here. Just going from the edges and moving inwards. That way I can take my little highlights area that I have And just go around it, and still it's going to be a super light gray. That part's darker. I'm just going to go around the areas. And you know what? If I mess up, like I just went over one of my highlighted areas, I can bring that back later with like a colored pencil or a gel pen. I'm going to cheat. So this is all very light still. It's good to get like a middle tone gray out when you're painting. Not out. It's good to just do a middle tone. I'm not going to add the label that's on this on the front. I don't want to. I don't feel like it. And if you mess up, like I just did with the stick that's in there, you can make it. I'm going to erase that part with a paper towel. I'm not smothering, not smearing it, going back and forth. I was just dabbing it and absorbing it. And remember how to test if it's still wet, touch it a little bit, and if it's cool, then it's probably still too moist if you don't want to have it bleed. Okay. So I'm just looking for the parts that are gray, adding a little bit of gray. I am adding paint to this part right now because I want that part to stay white. Not adding any paint to this part. This is just water right here where I'm using the edge of the watercolor brush from my pencils that I drew earlier. Are you on another one already? Way to go. Thanks. Sometimes I like to get an area wet first, and then remember I like to make it bleed a little bit. I got that part wet. I'm going to just put a little tiny drip of paint in there because I want it to be really organic and free form. Just want it to do whatever it wants here. I also really like to see it fade out. I like to watch it fractal. Okay. And if there's any part I want to change while my watercolor pencil is dry and I haven't done anything to it yet, I can erase it. But the minute I add water to it, it's going to be permanent. So this is just my first layer. That part's white, so I'm going to do the bottom here to make it look like it's brighter on the inside, like it does look like in my picture. So I'm just taking the watercolor pencil line that I did for the edge of the bottom of the bottle, and I'm making like my shadow here. It's going to take a lot of different layers. I'm kind of keeping it simple for now. I like to add the background a little bit as I go to help make the inside look good, because now my inside has more contrast because I added the little dark shadow that wraps around the bottle. So I do a little bit of the inside, a little bit of the outside to help make my objects have more contrast to pop off the page. And it's lighter down in here. It's not completely white, but it's light. So I'm just doing a little bit of each. You made me a picture? Oh my God, put them on that table, please. Thank you so much, Nikki. You can take home that art supplies, but remember to bring it back, okay?
Okay.
Are you leaving me now? Yes, go ahead. What's your question?
So let's say theoretically you took a light
watercolor pencil.
Oh, a light one or a white one?
A light.
Uh-huh.
Light one.
Can I leave it here until Friday?
Yes, you can put it on by your desk.
And you
On the
have
cart.
to make a circle with it, but it's supposed to be like white. How would you theoretically erase?
Is it still dry?
Yeah.
Yeah, just get in a pink eraser.
Okay.
It'll erase itself.
Okay.
Well, you'll erase it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye. You're welcome. Good question. See ya. Yes, what's your question? I can hear you.